My name is Thoroughgood Marshall VII. My granddaddy was someone important. There is no moderator, so you get me. Oh, come on. You're too late. I'm doing the introductions. Hi, I'm Aaron Douglas, Chief from Battlestar Galactica. And I brought a few of my friends. James Callis, come on down! Bamber, come on down! Michael Trucco to OR1, please. Michael Trucco to OR1. The incomparable and very leggy Tricia Helfer. And the impossibly sexy and even leggier Edward James Olmos. And not forgetting the incomparable, talented, funny, hungover Aaron Douglas. Who's Thomas? Thomas? Is Thomas in the house? Oh, I'm Thomas for now. All right, no Thomas. No, yeah, he's right here. Oh, okay.
Hello, I'm James Mic for a bit. Okay, ground rules. No flash photography. Last year, somebody had a seizure. That's bad. Still pictures, video, okay. No flash photography. Please start lining up behind the people in the audience with the microphones. I have a few questions for each person, but I'm going to ask one for every 2 or 3 you ask. First off, Eddie.
What?
Welcome back to Dragon Con. Battlestar Galactica dealt with a lot of real-world hot-button issues. Terrorism, torture, abortion, to name a few. If the show was still in production now, what issues would you like it to address?
Trump. He's a Cylon. They don't even want to claim him.
Okay, audience. Nobody has questions? Good thing I've got 6. Jamie, could you talk a little bit about the collaboration between the actors and the writers and producers on Galactica?
Sure. It was a unique experience because we were in Vancouver and they weren't. Where do you start? It all started for me with Michael Reimer. He was, an independent filmmaker of note, and he encouraged us all to feel able to approach with ideas and to steer our characters and to take charge of our characters. And he created an atmosphere on set where, time was never an issue. We would, play around, improvise, do takes after take after take if we wanted to. And we would find things that maybe wasn't in the writing, and then the writers would observe and see, and they were stimulated by that creative process and empowered by it. And the writers, when they came up to set, were incredibly trusting of us with their words and with their stories. And everybody felt able to contribute. Anybody else?
Thank you. Over here.
I'd just like to know how you guys approach family life versus work life. Whenever maybe families feel they're headed in one direction, you feel you're being pulled in another direction for work. How do you approach those topics and deal with those issues?
Family.
Answer.
I don't have a
Should we?
it certainly it presents some issues as your kids are growing up, I think. And one of the things that you can do, I mean, when we were doing Battlestar, we didn't really have that issue because we had our families with us when we were in Vancouver. I'm not sure. It's sometimes you can bring them along to the show, to the set, and nearly all kids enjoy that. It's always exciting seeing, or exciting and then to a certain extent a little bored. And that's adults as well. Like when you're making a TV show, as I'm sure everybody really here knows, because you're like aficionados, but you don't just film it once, and you film it lots and lots of times, and then the camera changes so that it can film the other people as well. And I've had friends come visit me on set and like they say cut, you know, and the friend comes over and goes, thank God, Christ, is it all over now? I'm like, no, now we're going to do it on me again so that I can say the lines correctly and maybe act a bit better. And then we're going to switch the camera around and do it on some other people. And then my friends are like, what? Well, you're going to do that again? Oh God, I've got to get out of here, mate. I'm losing my brain. So yeah, it's a juggling match sometimes.
And I think it changes as well with if you have, you know, young children. You guys started your family, so the families were there. I'm married, but I don't have any kids, so my husband doesn't come with me. So I get lonely a lot. I do, and they sometimes come with me. Thank you.
Sweet mother of God, does she have cats?
I have a lot of cats, so they can't always come with me. But
the world's sexiest cat lady. Give it 20 years. I had a different experience. Between season 1 and season 2, I lost my wife to breast cancer. So season 2 was such a cheery beginning down on the planet, and everybody's dying around me. So for the first 4 or 5 episodes, life was a little tough for the chief and me away from set. And I was very sad. Consequently, I was sometimes difficult to work with. And if you ask Bamber, I was always difficult to work with. So yeah, my experience is a little bit different, but yeah, that's my family stuff. Next question. Over here.
The show is so character-driven, but it's within the time constraints of a 1-hour TV show. Are there particular scenes that you may remember that were dropped on the floor or just never made it to air that come to mind?
Yeah, I mean there were crap loads.
James, didn't you have a penis
I hear that you spoke about this all yesterday, Aaron. Now I'm actually here. Yeah, there were a lot of scenes that were dropped. Didn't make it into the cut. Actually, as well, because most things that they write are not overwritten, but in the sense of that then it's always better to have too much material than too little. And you never want too little, because then you're like going back over shots that you didn't actually like, or it wasn't great, and they've got to be in the episode. So we nearly always shot more than we needed, and
Way more.
yeah, and then some things made the cut. And
But the interesting thing about our show is a lot of the episodes got extended. They were meant to be hour-long television episodes, and they turned into, like the last season, we suddenly had 4 extra episodes or something at the end that they tagged on, and things that were meant to be an hour turned into an hour and a half, turned into 2 episodes. They split them up sometimes. So they were quite flexible as sci-fi with that. But every script, I think, was always around. Reimer was always complaining that the scripts would be 60 pages long, and he was like, they should be 20 pages shorter. He would always say, because we shot a lot of air, you know, around the scenes. He would always, in his directorial style, he would create beginnings to scenes that didn't have them, and those. I think he did that just so that the scene would work better, so that we had a little mini backstory to the scene. And a lot of the times the stuff that we shot at the beginning and the end of scenes, instead of being snipped off, was actually included in the cut. So the episodes always ran long. I know Eddie should talk because he directed a few of these. He directed a beautiful episode, which was way longer. It was a movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it ended up being the movies.
Yeah.
No, I will say that I never had that problem. They used everything I ever did. What am I going to tell you? No, that isn't true. No, we had problems in that all this stuff was really good, and the problem was how do you cut, and that was always the issue. So that was our biggest problem. You know, we had too much good stuff, and how are we going to put it all in? Especially, I directed James in a piece where he was in the water with snakes. And we did that for
Which Eddie wanted to film in the zoo, in the snake tank. Luckily, health and safety wouldn't let him do that.
I'm a method actor. Question.
Good morning, you beautiful people. Just want to start that off. My question is, how did you guys handle the evolution of your characters throughout the series? Is that difficult for you to change from kind of one ideal to the next, or was it more of a gradual process?
Well, I couldn't understand.
Could you speak
Can
up
you
a little
speak up
bit?
a little bit? Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My question is, how did you guys handle the evolution of your characters throughout the series? Was it a gradual thing, or did it kind of like surprise you and just kind of form that way?
If you guys were at the panel yesterday, you might have heard this, so sorry for reiterating some, but we didn't have you yesterday. With TV, it's different than film, because in film you know the beginning, middle, and end before you start shooting. So you always have a backstory, but you know your end story as well. But with TV, it's always evolving, and you're not in control of it. So you usually don't find out what's happening until a couple of days before you shoot it. You're shooting one episode and you get the next episode, and unless there's a storyline coming up that they think unless there's a storyline coming up that they think it's really pertinent information that you need to know in order to play the character a certain way in an earlier scene, then they'll let you know. But quite often they're just developing it as well. I mean, they start with their storyboards for the year, but things change in the writer's room as well. So there's a certain amount in TV that you just have to, as an actor, allow yourself to kind of be in the moment and evolve as it evolves.
That's a good answer. Yeah, real good. Next.
This is for James. We talk about the fact that the scripts were were very surprising. Were there any moments when you got your script, as your character teetered back and forth between redemption and falling back? Were there any moments where you got your script and read through it and were just like, oh, come on?
Once or twice. Yeah, there was two issues I remember actually. One was the scene that Erin and I had together, that actually both of us didn't really want to film. That was the one where I say that I'm from Aralon. It is Aralon, isn't it? Do you remember?
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, no, we weren't really. I think it worked really, really well, and I think that's actually down to, I think it was Ron's episode. It was one of Ron's stories, Dirty Hands. It could have been. Anyway, it came out a lot better than we thought it would. But there was one particular episode where I was with Lucy Lawless outside. I can't remember where we were, Kamloops or somewhere. It was an unusual thing that we were not in the studio. And I had something like 3 or 4 pages of dialogue, or just monologue really. I couldn't make head or tail of it. I didn't know what it was about. And I pleaded with them not to say it. I was like, please, I can't do this. I can't actually, I don't even know what it means. And that was one, I got away with so much. That was one of the times where basically all of the powers that be kind of crumbled in on me, and they were like, you do it. You just flipping well do it and say every single word and all of the lines. And yeah, I've watched it back. I look like I can't act. It was actor proof. You win some, you lose some.
Tricia, the women on Galactica had a lot of agency compared to your typical sci-fi damsel in distress. Can you discuss the women as role models?
Well, I think the show was gender neutral. You know, I don't think necessarily it was set out to be, oh, you know, the women are in power. It's just that was a given. You know, the Admiral didn't have an issue necessarily with Rosalind becoming president because she was a woman. It was because he didn't think she was qualified as 43rd down in the line in succession. Starbuck being, you know, one of the top fighter pilots, that was never, it was, I don't think, unless I'm wrong, questioned because she was a woman. It was questioned because she was a hothead, you know? So I think it was refreshing for all of us, I think, all of the females on the show, of not having to kind of worry about that. It was very refreshing. And, you know, I think for me, I was a little worried, oh, you know, the blonde in a red dress kind of thing in the beginning. And I heard some of those comments in the beginning. And it was very kind of pat on the back to myself of when that changed. And I started hearing people see all the qualities of Six as opposed to just, oh, you know, ex-model in a red dress kind of thing. And so that was really nice for me to, when people go, oh no, this is a really strong character. And just got a lot of depth and vulnerability and power and manipulation. But I don't think it was more, I feel, a gender neutral show.
Thanks. Over here.
Good morning, everyone, and hi, Tom. If there was, like, I can't believe that the show's already been off the TV for 6 years, but say there was a 10-year reunion, if it was up to you, what would your character be doing in a 10-year reunion?
I'll handle this. He's in the sun, she's in New York City, he's living in a cabin by himself. He's in New York City and he's looking for Starbucks. I am in Scotland, living in a castle I built by myself. Working a still I built by myself. Having sex with sheep I've fathered myself. You asked it.
By the way, that is the exact plot of the movie that they're making. That's a little sneak preview. It's just been announced. There it is.
Over here.
I have a question for Teresa. What was it like playing all the different Sixes? Because there were some that were kind, some nice, some cold, some that wanted to help humanity, then some that were against it. Was it very difficult to play all the different versions of her?
I didn't find it difficult. It was a challenge, certainly, but one that I was very happy to kind of tackle. You know, Catholic was in the very beginning, and then Head Six predominantly was first season and the first half of second season. I think I had Shelley Godfrey before that, which was fun. But I was getting a little tired of playing Head Six by the time Gina came along, the Pegasus episodes. So I was craving something more that I could sink my teeth into as an actor. And more so for the reason that it was also kind of, you know, we had to figure out an interesting way to get Six into the scene all the time. And you start to feel like it's becoming a shtick, you know, we're like, oh, she's hiding under it makes for some funny stories, mind you, but to save in editing and having to do multiple takes, I was quite often hiding. I was hiding under a table and I'd pop up or I'd be following the camera. I'm sure it was harder for the other actors in the scene. It was kind of hard for me because you're trying to be in the scene, but you're ducking around like, okay, now's my time. I'm getting into position. And you're like, Baltar. But you really just barely, like your hair's still kind of moving because you just slid into frame. And but it was getting a little tiring of how do we bring Six in an interesting way. So by the time the other Sixes came along, it was just really fun for me. And I know that sounds weird to play a tortured, damaged soul as fun, but as an actor, you kind of crave for that type of thing. Not that particular storyline necessarily, but I saw them all as different people and very similar, trying to find the similarities between them. But how much interaction they had with humans, what their job was with humans, kind of informed who they were and how they saw the world. So to me, they were different people. So I really was playing different people so I could keep them separate. But I'm a little obsessive compulsive too. There's a lot of times where you see multiple sixes in the background, and those aren't me. Unless they turned and you saw the face, they were photo doubles to save time and money. But I would watch them, because a lot of times, not trying to pick on the girls, but they didn't know what was going on. Either they didn't know the show, or they didn't have the scripts. They just show up and they're put in clothes and they're told to go stand over there. So I remember one scene specifically, it was in Downloaded, and there was all these sixes kind of walking in the courtyard. And one was she was in kind of more of a, more of a military type, she was definitely she was working. Not, she wasn't the head six where she's all slinky. But she was walking like she was on a runway, walking away from camera and right in frame. And I walked up to her, I'm like, no, you're not on a catwalk here. This is, you're on a mission, you're going to, you got a job to do. You're walking with a purpose. So I was kind of a little obsessive. I'm sure the girls hated me that were my photo doubles, because I would watch every single one of them and go up and tell them how to walk and how to stand and don't throw your hip out and that type of thing. So
those skinny bitches.
Over here?
You really are looking for a dousing, aren't you?
From you? No.
As a science fiction loving criminologist, this show was really an incredible thing for me, because it was such a metaphor for how hot button social issues that are often operationalized as black and white in society are very, very gray most of the time, and that ideas of social norms and deviance are very socially constructed. And especially with some characters, like Lee's character, Lee, he was oftentimes struggling with those issues of recognizing that it wasn't so black and white. And so what I was kind of curious about is, how has the progression of this show changed you as individuals in terms of your ideas and your opinions about some of these serious issues in society?
But I just want to clarify, are you a science fiction criminologist?
It's a little bit of both, right? I'm a criminologist, but very much a science fiction fan.
Wow. I didn't know there was that.
I think that's an amazing question, and I absolutely think it. When you deal with a show where the president, this last and final act, there is a whole story that leads up to that last and final act, and there are millions of mini steps to every big decision. And I don't know if I was of this mind before, but I find myself ever since, when you see a sensationalized case in the media of some awful, horrendous act, I do start looking for the motivation. And it's part of your job as an actor too. You never play a baddie. You play someone who's in a situation and has got there somehow over many small decisions, and that's how you create nuance, and that's how you create an interesting performance. But I do apply it to when I read the newspapers now, and I absolutely do try and find some sort of redeeming feature in the darker situation. And sometimes it's very hard to do that. And our show is fundamentally about 9/11 and the aftermath of 9/11, and that is something that we're quite comfortable to be black and white about. When we what's happening over there? Objects just fly in the air. So the show has that as its root cause, and what Ron brilliantly did is show that 9/11 is a nuanced event. It's not out of the blue. It's not something that didn't have a backstory and can't be explained and understood, and hopefully we can work in the future to understand why events like that occur. And I think in the media it was very much portrayed as a just out of the blue, crazy awful, horrible thing that happened that that can't be understood. And our show was controversial, and it tried to understand what that was about.
Hey guys, good morning. Could you share some advice about how to work successfully with others when you have pretty major creative differences from your past experience?
So just say it one more time. Louder.
Could you share some advice about how to work successfully with others when you have pretty major creative differences?
James? How do we work successfully with others when you have creative differences? James Callis.
There's always me. There's always one, isn't there?
Tell the story wasn't just me. Which one?
No, I'm not telling it. It's not funny. The story that when you and I did that scene and we had all that dialogue and we said no, and I had the gun on my chest and Reimer called Ron.
Oh God. We several times on. It's really. I mean, I want to answer the question rather than just tell a story in the sense of because it's about advice. I think the most important thing actually that you can do really is listen and yield. Ever so slightly, like take a breath and try and really understand what the other person wants. Because actually when these things kick off, they really do kick off, and it goes from like 0 to 60 in like less than 3 seconds. And then actually what happens is it's a really uncomfortable atmosphere for everybody, not just the people who are in the scene, everybody on set. So you just you want to maintain your civility at all times and listen. Really try and listen. That's the most important thing. Now to go back to this story, we changed a lot of things in the 5 years, always, and there were things that we found actually on set. I think it's one of these things that you earn the right not to be interfered with. If you're doing something and they like it and it's good, and you're not really trying to change, you're not trying to change the scene, you're trying to make the scene work better. So 9 times out of 10 for all of us, there would be no discussion. We wouldn't ask people, we would just do it. Sometimes then, there was a point whereby somebody's like, actually, changing this around is like more than my job's worth, and I need to call somebody else. And on this particular occasion, when Aaron and I were doing this scene, we were working with Michael Reimer, and Michael Reimer went, I think I should call Ron. And both of us were like, don't call Ron. Do not call Ron, okay? He was like, no, because I mean, you're significantly changing the way the dialogue is done. Yeah, but Ron's really not going to want to get into that with us. It's far better. You know what we'll do? We'll film it 2 ways. We'll film it the way with the dialogue, the way that it's written, and then we'll film it the way that we want to do it, and then you can decide, as long as we get the opportunity to do what we want to do. Anyway, at that particular moment, Reimer didn't listen to us, and he called Ron. I'll let Aaron carry on the rest of the story.
Ron wasn't happy. Reimer put him on speakerphone, and he said some things. It was the scene after Callie had died, and she shaved his head, and he's lying in his bunk, and Baltar walks in to apologize because I showed up at your little temple thing, right, and threw you through a table or whatever I did. And I've got the pistol lying on my chest. Well, we had this whole back and forth. It was like 2.5 pages of dialogue. It was chatting back and forth. And I just said, no, I don't think I should say anything. I think the pistol says it all. It was just sitting there on my chest. And then at the end of the scene, he should just stand there and he turned to go and I should put my hand out. And I shake his hand and then he leaves. And I says, I thought that said everything. That sort of says everything. And Ron's like, they say the words, frackin', but he used the other one, and you tell them to be actors, and he went nuts. And he was right. He was absolutely right, because we were fundamentally, as you said, we were fundamentally changing things.
Yeah, but didn't they use the one that we did?
So we did it both ways.
Yeah, they did.
And there's the one. Ron watched it, and he went, yeah, okay, they were right.
Actually, there was some...
He talks about it in, because on the DVDs you can watch the commentary. He talks about that in the commentary, and he says Aaron and James were right, but don't ever do it again.
No, I tell you what was really funny is that Reimer, he didn't want to be responsible, so he's like got the phone out. He's like, he's like, we'll call Rob. And it's like in front of us like that. The phone.
And the ADs are trying to get the crew out of the room.
Really lost it. And I totally understand at that stage, it's 3 minutes before we film something. You've had 2 weeks to kind of come to me and speak about this, but right now I'm involved in something else and I can't get my head around whatever. But there was a lot of screaming and a lot of shouting and a lot of swearing. And then he said, there was a very funny moment, he went, and you can tell the actors, where are Aaron and James? And like Michael Ryan went, are you on speakerphone? So it was just bad all round. It was very, very
Over here.
Hi. My question was there any loose ends or holes that never got completed in the story by the time the show ended that really bothered you and you wanted to see get
Starbucks. Real quick on that. Apparently, in some of the versions of the final episode, some of our endings are cut. Like there's a version where the last time you see the chief is after he's broken Tori's neck, throwing her down, and then he's just sitting there. The chief ends up on the planet and has a really nice scene with Ellen and Ty. There's a lot of people that haven't seen that because somebody at NBC Uni edited the final episode for time or whatever and took out the chief on the planet going up to Scotland. Yeah.
On what? On DVD?
On DVD or Netflix or what? I think it's on the Netflix one. Am I right? Who knows about this? Is it Netflix that doesn't have the ending? Netflix that doesn't have the ending. So if you watched it on Netflix and you haven't seen the final chief scene as he's on the planet, you can go on YouTube and just put in final chief scene Battlestar and it'll show you it. You know what? Let's watch that right now, shall we? Everybody gather around.
On the big screen.
Michael.
Yes. Me?
You spent the last chunk of season 4 in the Cylon goo tub. Some of the audience members might not realize what happened in the real world that caused that. Could you explain?
I spilled a lot of milk. In between, we took a long break for a writer's strike that happened in what, 2008?
Yeah, no.
2007. And about 1 week into the writer's strike, I was in a car accident and I broke my neck. Like, upside down, broken, C6, C5, C6, and C7 shattered, 3 vertebrae. And I now have 2 rods, 5 screws, a plate, some baling wire, and I think the doctor's car keys are in there still. Because I saw the x-ray and that shit looks weird. It's like this, it's stuff like this inside my neck. And so what happened was, just by lucky happenstance, well, A, I didn't die, so that happened. That's not what they said. I was able to walk out of the hospital, which is a beautiful thing. And I had 4 months to recover, which coincided directly with the writer's strike. Because had that not happened, had that event not happened, they would not have had a choice but to write me out because I couldn't work. I mean, I literally was in a bed. I had a collar on for a good 4 months. So when the strike ended, we went back to work. I had enough time to recover and to heal, but nobody wanted to touch me on set. I came to set like a pariah, and people were like, oh shit, don't touch Trucco. Just like, don't look at him, we're not even gonna give him dialogue. Just make him stand in the corner and he gets his ass kicked and then he's gonna get shot in the head and then we're gonna shave his head and put him in the goo. So that's how you deal with an injured actor. And it was really cool for the first couple of days, like the makeup and the, the shaved head and the tank of goo that Tricia knows so well. Until you're in it for like 4 or 5 weeks and you realize who your friends are when they call lunch and everybody goes, and they're gone. And I'm staying, I got a banana hammock on and I'm laying in this tub of goo and everybody goes to lunch and I'm like the weird naked wet guy with a bald head. Just looking for a bathrobe and a sandwich, so can I get some love here? So, and it was this really festive, we're getting to the end of the show and everybody's taking these great pictures, behind the scenes shots, and They're like, oh, Trucco, you scared the shit out of me. You want to get in this picture? You do? All right, but just don't touch me. Sound free with the bald guy. So it was a really interesting change. I did not expect, that wasn't the avenue that I expected Anders to take. But I'm glad we did. It was a hell of an incredible experience, and it was, there were times when it was very, very emotional and very difficult laying in the hospital bed, having just had that experience. And Michael Hogan was at the foot of the bed in one scene, and man, he reached down and he just put his hand on my foot in this one moment. Oh, fuck. Yeah. And that said it all, man. He was, I was like this, as I am right now, and he sensed it. And we messed around on set a lot, you know, we had a lot of fun. But it got me, and Hogan just reached out and he put his hand on my leg, and yeah, it made it all right. And it made me realize what an incredible family I'm a part of. Don't touch the neck ever.
Hi, I'm Lisa. First, I'd like to welcome you all. Thank you for coming to DragonCon here in Atlanta this year. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
You had mentioned, Tricia had referred back to it, the show itself was very, you know, it's a drama. Tell us about
I'm going to stop you there. I can't hear you.
Oh, is that better?
We don't have monitors up here, so all the sound goes that way.
Did you hear me? Thank you for coming to Atlanta.
Heard that, and then I didn't hear the rest.
Okay, all right. Thank you for, okay. Let me back up. Tell us, the show was very much drama-driven, as we all know. Tell us about the fun stuff that happened behind the scenes, the jokes you played on each other. Because you're a family. I know you did it.
Not as much as we would have liked, unfortunately. It was quite serious, even for me. And I think as well, like people going through emotional stuff, and that's actually what most people were, I think, bringing to the camera in the story, was you needed to be in the zone. And actually as well, like larking around or messing around beforehand could really get in somebody's way, I think. If it genuinely, it's like there's too much silliness or whatever, somebody's really got something to do that they're bringing. So actually a lot of the time I seem to remember before the scenes, yeah, it was quiet, and you'd be like in your own headspace to go and bring to make the scene work. Afterwards, when you finished it, then you could, it's a bit like that newscaster thing. You know, like, you can have a laugh and like shake the papers around. One time, I've told this before, one time I thought that I was really funny. I put a, what do they call them? A cone, like a road cone, just in the middle of Galactica corridor. So all these soldiers walking around, and then I put a bucket and a mop. And they just kind of like, then they walked. It was a Michael Reimer thing. There were soldiers walking down like that, and then they just saw the cone and the bucket, and then had to stop. I thought it was really funny. And nobody else did. And, which actually is funny in itself. So there was a cut, and then who the hell put that there? Me. Why? Because I thought it would be funny. It's not funny. We're making a TV show. It just cost us 5 minutes, and that's money as well. Grow up. Sorry.
Yeah, I think what James is saying is right. There was so much seriousness, but you definitely found time to, you know, in between, or there was no real pranksters, like practical jokers necessarily. No saran wrapping toilets and things like that. But a lot of joking, and I mean, I think you resort to being a kid on set a lot in terms of if somebody trips, it's really funny. Like, you can get the giggles over just the most minuscule things, and sometimes you get the giggles and they won't stop. I mean, I think I don't even know, there's probably a name for it, whatever it is, but it's just, that it definitely happens a couple of times, where then the crew's laughing, because laughter's infectious, right? So then everyone's laughing with you because you keep trying and you get your serious game face on and then immediately you break into giggles again. But somehow the actors never seem to quit as fast as the crew. The crew gets tired of it a lot faster than the actors do. But yeah, that happens every once in a while when
Especially to Mary.
Yeah.
Mary was really not a person you want to give the giggles. Give her the giggles. You really didn't. I'm not kidding you. It became a tremendous, difficult problem. Not get her back on track. Mary, it was funny 2 hours ago. Really cute. Really nice.
We'd be 20 minutes into the day and they'd have to call lunch so Mary could go to her trailer and calm down.
I was fortunate enough to be part of a pretty good practical joke that we thought was funny. It was very juvenile, but it was the later stage. It was season 4. Anderson's in the bed. I'm shaved head. I'm passed out. I'm laying in that hospital bed. So I'm just going to bring up the mood after I completely brought it down 5 minutes ago. Katie Starbuck is there. She's talking to Anderson. I'm passed out. She's like, "Sam, I know you're going to pull through it." And so one of the, I think it was one of the prop guys when I set this thing up where he had a broom handle and I was laying in my hospital bed with my shoes. And he was just below the bed with a broom handle, and while she's talking to me and she's kind of got her hand on my head, she's like, "Sam, I know you're going to pull through." She's like, "Oh, good God!" And all of a sudden this scream just starts rising from beneath the sheet. Just to let you know that Anders was still in there. Maybe spewing psychobabble, but my unit still works.
And then there's the accidental ones. I used to get the question, boxers or briefs, and my answer is neither. And I learned the hard way that you really need to wear underwear underneath your clothes when you're working on sets, particularly in a costume. Because they need to put a mic pack on you and they need to, run a wire down your leg and stuff like that. Unless you're Tricia, who wears her mic pack underneath the red dress, because it's the only place you can hide it without it seeing, and that sound guy, the luckiest son of a... So normally they put like a pack on you and they run a wire, and if you're wearing a suit, it'll go in your breast pocket or whatever, but I always like mine around on an ankle pack, and then they run a cable all the way up underneath your clothes and they put it out. In the oranges, it comes out on the little tiny lav mic sits right in the little breast thing. In the greens, it sits in the pocket and the cable goes down. It can either go on your belt or whatever. So I was late getting to set and they needed to wire me. And the sound guy walked up and he said, "You drop the mic down your leg." And when I was wearing my oranges, I like to do the Superman. So I'm standing there and I'm talking to somebody, and stand up and do this. I'm standing there, I'm talking to somebody, and he comes up and he goes, "Drop the wire down your leg." So I go, "Brr," and he's down on his knee already, pulling my pant leg up to put the thing on, right? And I'm going, "Yeah, brr," and I hear this. And I kind of pause for a second. That shouldn't have hit something. That shouldn't have hit something warm and flashlight. So I turn and I look down, and everybody's just like cast and crew, and everybody's there. And I look down, and the sound guy's like this. Oops, sorry about that. And he doesn't skip a beat, he turns around and goes, "Douglas just cold cooked the sound guy."
Lucky sound guy.
I meant for her.
Over here. For James and Jamie, you're two from England, and yet only James got to keep his accent. What's up with that? Was there like a Grand Moff Tarkin thing going on?
I don't get the reference because I'm from England.
For American films, evil British guys get to stay British.
Yeah.
Everybody else has American accents.
But what was that reference? I want to know.
Star Wars.
Oh,
dude.
The definition of gaff.
I think he just cold cocked you.
Well, for me, it was never really an issue. I auditioned as an American in American, and I didn't give them an opportunity to hear me speak as a Brit until I showed up to work, and then Eddie told me I should speak American the whole time. I tried, and the more I spoke it, the worse the accent got, so I decided I'd leave it to the takes. And but with James, I don't know, I'm sure there was a debate as to where...
Yeah, I was totally cast, totally cast, I mean, through lots of auditions and lots of different meetings and this and that and the other, I was always like this and speaking like this. But then when we got to film it on our first day, I was like, well, now I'm going to show them what I can do. Here we go. And anyway, I put on an accent, which I thought was pretty convincing. Anyway, Michael Ryan was directing with the earphones. Well, what the hell's going on? No, I'm going to do it this way. But you've been auditioning for 5 months in one way, and now you've decided on the day you're going to change it. I went, yeah, it's brilliant. I went, no, it's not. Yeah, that's essentially, that's why I got to keep my accent.
Over here.
Hi, my name's Wayne, and first of all, I want to thank all you guys for one hell of a ride. Fantastic.
Hey, you're still being here.
I could ask each and every one of you a question, but I got one, so I'm going to ask, this is for Edward. Can I call you Eddie?
Yeah.
Okay, Eddie, Adama was such a magnificent role, and you portrayed him just commanding, pun intended, but how much of his development, his character was hard-coded in the writing? How much did you contribute to that, and if so, where did you draw influence from?
It was mutual. It started off, the writers had control of the situation. There was a time when I made the choice to make him an alcoholic and drug addict, and no one knew. So I was over drinking, constantly drinking, and people would look at me, and and then finally it became noticeable and really became noticeable when I tried to paint my room, my bathroom, in my uniform, and my son comes in, and when I found out that Ty was a Cylon, and all that was not written, none of that was written, so it became a real issue. And they would go to the dailies, the writers would go to the dailies to see what was happening with the character, which was really, really nice. They loved it. I mean, in the end, it became one of the best things I could have done for the character because it really dehumanized him and really he became a threat. And then of course, he comes back at the end. And that arc was, we worked on that arc. I created that arc. And they allowed me to. They were confident enough to let it go through. But, I'm not an alcoholic. Yeah.
And one more thing, this is for the whole room and for you. So say we all.
Over here.
You guys know the story about that, right? The so say we all thing. It was never written like that. Matter of fact, when I went...
Was any of your stuff really ever written? Came out of your face?
The very first thing we ever shot, the first thing I shot was the So Say We All Sing. And actually, they had shot you and Tricia in the morning. And it was after lunch, and it was the first time all of us were together. And we were all in the burial site. And hangar, yeah. Well, we were doing, there was nothing but bodies. We're about to get rid of a lot of our fellow soldiers and family. And the scene started, and they wanted me to be standing up with at the podium, with the priest. And I said, I don't think I would be there. I think I'd be over here. So I got in with the crew and all of our cast and everything. We're standing there, and I was supposed to give the speech, and I said, "Do your cameras move?" You can remember, we'd never shot together. This Reimer and I were working together for the very, very first time. I said, can your cameras move? He goes, of course. And they had about 3 or 4 cameras working. I said, okay. And so I didn't say anything more. And then I started to walk, and I went around, and the first time I said it, everybody just looked at me. I said, so say we all. And they just looked at me. And so I said it a little bit with more intensity, and some of them looked at each other, because nothing was rehearsed. No one knew.
We had no idea what the hell he was doing. It wasn't in our script.
Yeah, it wasn't. So everybody's like looking at each other.
Well, I think what actually happened is you said "so say we all," and we sort of whispered because it's just amen. So say we all is just amen, and you know at the end of grace or whatever, everyone just sort of goes amen. And that's what happened. We were emotional because we were saying goodbye to all these dead crew members, and we just went amen. And then you were like, no, fucking amen. And we were like, amen. We said it. No, fucking amen. And we went amen. And then amen turns into this thing because that's how banal it is. So say we all is a phrase that we've said a million times. And you turned it into something...
Into a rally.
Into its literal meaning. Into its actual literal meaning. So you have to think about what it meant. Which is, yeah, we all agree. We stand together. And you created that meaning by repeating the phrase, and we had to actually listen to ourselves say it. And it was extraordinary.
Over here.
My question is for James Callis and Edward James Olmos. One of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life is the Portlandia Battlestar Galactica sketch. Just one more episode. So I wanted to hear how that came about and what your thoughts were on that.
We were just asked. We were available. Fred, it is Fred. Fred and Carrie are really big fans of the show, and when they met us all, they I think it's fair to say they were like a little starstruck, and because they're actors and comedians, I thought that they were making fun of us. They were like, oh wow, it's really great to meet. I was like, yeah, okay. Oh, it is, okay. I thought they were hysterical. Actually, a lot of times it was hard not to laugh. Because I suppose a lot of that stuff, it really is, it's so banal. It's so funny. Oh, the way that they were. And the introduction of the wrong Ron Moore was just priceless. There was a lot of stuff actually like that we filmed that they didn't use. When Eddie started ad-libbing and stuff, because he started getting, yes, there was this thing around the table, wasn't it, that they wanted us to say things in a certain way. Oh, you didn't see all of this, they didn't use it, but it was very, very funny. And then it became like this thing about Fred Armisen basically directing Eddie and going, no, it's got to be like this, you've got to say it like this. And Eddie going, no, it doesn't. And it went backwards and forwards like that for a long time. And Portland was really cool.
I don't think most people didn't know that Ron Moore was actually in the scene. Most of you don't know that. The guy the actor that's sitting reading on the paper, that was the real Ron Moore. And so when they said, this is Ron Moore, and they introduced us, and I looked at him and I said, this is all ad-lib. I turned to Callis and I said, it's not Ron Moore. Ron doesn't wear glasses. He just went. It was really fun.
Yeah, they used, that's another thing that they didn't use, but Ron in the scene, the real Ron Moore, would constantly interject things that were wrong about the show. And well, why can't we have Starbuck do that? And like we'd all turn around and go, do you even watch the show? Do you even know? She wouldn't do that. Who the fuck is this guy anyway? Around the table.
Over here. Hi guys, welcome to DragonCon. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you all coming down and spending time with us.
My question is for Mr. Olmos. So many amazing dramatic scenes, and one of which involved a model ship. Now, I heard some stories about it, and it was supposedly this prop that, you had this amazing scene, and you were in the moment and you just whacked it, and then I heard the whole crew went silent. Number one, is that true? And number two, can you tell us if that was intended, if you're like, all right, I'm gonna do this, and then it just organically happened?
No, it was an organic move, totally, because of the very expensive organic move. Well, you should have seen it. I mean, when I hit it and I crushed it, and the whole, everybody just like, so deer in headlights. Everybody. Not only do we not have another one, that was a collector's item. I said, well, then what did you bring it in here for? You crazy? It was crazy. They brought a really nice piece of, art, and I bashed it. And, because, Starbuck had died, and so people were just like, oh, crap. And so they picked up all the pieces and they went over, and they started to repair it. And they had to try to repair it, but it was completely destroyed. So much so that in the scene with me and Hogan, when Hogan and I finally get into a fight and we're killing each other, we crushed, they throw me on top of the ship. It's on the table, and I land on top of it. It was pretty insane. But now, it was all a mistake. Very expensive mistake.
If you don't want a 2-year-old to eat the cookies, don't put them on a plate on the floor. If you don't want a 2-year-old to knock over a tower of blocks, don't build a tower of blocks.
Over here.
Going back to the idea that as actors on a TV show, you don't know what's coming next, you're rolling with the punches, who's a Cylon, who's not a Cylon. In the last few episodes, as you're coming to the end of this extraordinarily remarkable run of a show, can you talk about your first reactions to the script of the final episode of the series, whether it was the table read or when you first got it? How did you react to that script? What did you think? Did you think, wow, this is awesome? Or, good Lord, this is crap? What did you think about that?
I grabbed it and I started reading it, and I was doing a scene with Eddie, Mary, and there was a couple other people. And I started reading it, and Mary was just like, what are you reading? Oh, no, I don't want to see it, I don't want to see it. She ran away, she's like, no. And she was so upset because the show was ending. And I'm reading this thing going, oh, you should see what you get to do now. I was like, I don't want to know. I love the ending, personally.
So did I.
And so did I. Absolutely.
So I say we all.
When you're filming the last episode as well, or you're reading the last episode, it's hard to kind of take, because it's in a way you're kind of, the family's breaking up in one way, and so you're reading it with more emotion than if you would just be watching it as an observer or reading it as an observer, because then you're going, okay, well now I'm not going to see them every day and this and that, So also throughout the episode of filming, there would just be tears and breaking down, crying through, whichever scene. And some scene, you'd obviously get through a lot of scenes, but then for some reason, some scene would just make an impression, or somebody would have their moment. I remember at one point, Kate Vernon, it was her time to get emotional over a scene, and it happened with every single person throughout filming of the last episode. So it's hard to separate yourself from just the story and also the personal attachments and interactions that you're doing when you're filming. So I think across the board, pretty much all the actors were happy with the ending.
How does it affect it? Last question. It ended. Yeah, it shouldn't have ended. We should still be doing it.
All right.
Guys, thanks for coming back year after year, because obviously we all still really care about the show and talking about it. And I've heard that the writer's strike really affected the trajectory of the show and how it was going to wrap up and end, as far as decisions that were made about Starbuck and who she was and how everything wrapped up. And I just wondered if you could speak to that and how accurate that was.
We were standing on the burned out Cobalt thing in that big long tracking shot where they just pass everybody and they're looking. And that was our last day of shooting. And if the writer's strike had gone on X number of weeks, the show would have ended there. And I turned to James Callis and I said, you realize if the writer's strike goes more than this number of weeks, that this will be the final episode, the final scene of Battlestar Galactica. We will get to Earth and it'll be this burned out shithole that's uninhabitable. And James just went, oh my God, that's awful. What an awful ending.
No, actually, I seem to remember we were all there on this beach. We were actually chatting about this last night, and there was a real, which was unusual for our show, a real doom and gloom. And actually, that's just the crew and the producers. Everybody's walking around with like the world's on their shoulder. It was a very unusual atmosphere because most people are pretty up and peppy and it's great. We're going to do this, and you should have seen what we did yesterday. So this was real doom and gloom. But I seem to remember really, just knowing that it wasn't over. It was just like, what, this shot? No, it's not going to be, I'm sure that we're coming back. And actually, I didn't realize now how critical that was with I suppose I was living under a full sense of security. I thought it was like, well, we're definitely coming back. They can't finish it like this. Whatever, circumstances made me correct. But
there was a sense while we were shooting it, and I know Reimer shot it to be an ending.
Yes.
Yeah. We had to behave as if that was the ending. We had to, and we did continue on that day. Like, we popped some champagne, and we behaved as if I stole my flight suit. I mean, we all behaved as if it was an ending, and we all kind of said goodbye. I think deep down knowing that we were going to come back, but we had to at least pay lip service to the fact that this could be the last time we ever worked together. And the longer the strike went on, it was a really weird time. We didn't know what was going to happen.
Was that in the middle of our season?
It was episode 13. It was episode 13.
Yeah. Well, we land on the burned out planet. We find Earth, and it's all
and then
just.
What happened? Then did we do season 5 after that, or 4.5?
4.5. There was no season 5, James.
That's right. Yeah. It depends. Actually, it's written that way on some box sets.
Yeah.
And I remember. And I think the writer. Sorry, no. I mean, if you've got something funny to say,
No, I remember every time, because if anybody's going to be in the know, it's Eddie or Mary. So anytime on that day they picked up their phone and went, hello, we all just went, oh, they're talking to SAG. They're talking to the Writers Guild. Eddie, no, and then he'd get off the phone. Who was that? He goes, oh, it's my kid. Ah, come on!
Yeah, that's true. But I think the writers also, it did change the ending. And I know that the writers' room in that time, they weren't allowed to do any writing, but obviously they had a lot of time to think. And I know Ron, I mean, if he was here, he could answer the question properly. I just know that a lot did change in that time that they had. And I know that, well, I pitched a story idea which they'd taken, and I was invited into the writer's room, and they'd taken my idea for an episode and they were going to make it, and I was super excited, so I ended up writing this episode. And then Ron rang me at the end of the strike and he said, you know what, we've changed, we're going in a different direction and we're going to finish it in a different way. No idea what exactly was involved, but definitely it changed how the writers thought of what they were doing, their job, and it gave them time to...
They had to rewrite, because that planet that we were on wasn't Earth. We thought it was initially. And then we ended up on Earth 7 episodes later.
Yeah. No, it was Earth. It was Earth.
Was it?
It was
Then where
Earth,
did we
and
land
it was
up?
completely destroyed.
Where did we land up then at the end?
Earth 2.
Oh,
we called it Earth. I was the one that told Mary, I said, we'll call it, we'll call this Earth.
It was a lie. It was another lie.
It was another lie.
Now I know.
Sadly, we are out of time for this panel. Eddie, will you adjourn us, please?